Equilibrium is the latest and greatest addition to the dungeon roster in Destiny 2, and after having completed the dungeon myself on both contest and normal mode, I'm pretty confident in saying that this is definitely one of the easier dungeons overall. So today I'm going to walk you through how to complete the dungeon from start to finish with as little fluff as possible, including the locations of all 3 collectibles and both secret chests, plus some other info regarding the dungeon feat system. And if you end up finding the guide helpful, then a like and subscribe is greatly appreciated. But without further ado, let's get into it. The first encounter of the dungeon is relatively simple and serves as a base to learn the core mechanic that features in every following encounter and transition. Once you arrive at the area, clear all of the ads that are present, and then a rally flag will spawn next to the giant archway leading into the temple. To start the encounter, interact with the parked Cabal ship, and then shortly thereafter a new wave of ads will spawn. Kill all of these, and then around the map a new enemy will spawn in via a Cabal drop pod called the Nameless Apprentice. They're basically big red angry gladiators. You can't miss them. And overall, the goal of the encounter is to remove the immune shield protecting the Nameless Apprentices and then kill them. So let's discuss how to do that. Scattered around the central arena are 3 radar dishes that can be interacted with. And what you're going to want to do is bait one of the Nameless Apprentices next to one of these radar dishes and only activate the dish once you see the apprentice begin this taken charge up animation that's essentially a giant explosion. And you will take heavy damage if caught in the blast, but if he explodes near enough to the dish after it's been activated, the dish will fire up and lower the shielding on the outer cave entrances. Now, make your way into the cave and hop on the provided Falcon vehicle, and it's time to do some driving. Your goal here is to race around the track surrounding the central arena and collect these pools of taken energy on the ground. Doing so will accumulate stacks of Gathering Shadow on the top of your screen, and it usually takes one full lap of the course to fully charge the meter. But be careful though, if you don't refresh your Gathering Shadow in time, you will die due to the Creeping Shadows debuff, so best be quick. Once you've fully charged your Gathering Shadow meter, head back into the central arena and you'll notice that the meter has now changed into Shadow Novice and your grenade icon has been replaced by a new Shadow Power. And it's this power right here that's going to allow you to break the shields of the Nameless Apprentices. And quick note before we carry on, you can still toggle between Shadow Power and your actual grenade ability by pressing Z on PC, which I believe is the default bind, or whatever your key to activate renegade abilities is in the Lawless Frontier. So, with your new Shadow Power, if you run up to a Nameless Apprentice and once again wait for him to begin his charge up attack, pressing your grenade while he's doing this will now instantly cancel the attack and remove his shield. So now, defeat the apprentice and all other apprentices scattered throughout the arena, and also just as a quick tip, each apprentice you defeat will drop a new pool of taken energy that allows you to refresh your Shadow Novice, so no need to run the circuit again. After all the apprentices are dead, there will be a ton of walkers spawning in, so be careful not to be too exposed. However, once you clear all of the walkers and remaining ads, the encounter will complete and you'll be able to move on. After you've collected your loot, board the ship and you'll be taken on board the Imperium carrier. And from here, you'll just want to make your way through the carrier until you reach the next encounter. Before we do that though, there's a couple things you ought to know. One is that shortly after you begin the transition, in the area where you first get to see a small crack outside into hyperspace, going under the floor, tucked in a corner, is the first of the 3 dungeon collectibles. Be sure not to miss this. As you move on, certain sections in the transition require you to shoot fuses to open shielded doors. I'll have the locations of a few of these being shown on screen now. And also, once you've made it into this particular hallway with the 3 fuses, hopping up into the rafters is hidden the first secret chest. So again, be sure not to miss this. There are a couple extra hazards to be aware of, such as a window being blown open and sucking you into hyperspace, and also a vent with an explosive stash behind it. Just be careful of these, and eventually you'll find yourself at the first boss encounter, Harrow. Harrow is an absolute aura farming beast, and it's a shame that we have to kill him, to be honest, but job's gotta be done, so let's discuss. Start the encounter by breaking the fuse on the wall and dropping down into the arena, and after Harrow is done with his initial animation, one of the several side doors will open and have a few Cabal enemies come inside. Kill them and quickly escape the middle arena through this door and into the side rooms. This encounter is essentially 4 main rooms, each connected by narrow hallways. You've got the backside, which is a thin, more elongated room, then both left and right, which are larger, more square rooms, and of course the middle arena where Harrow initially spawns. The goal of this encounter is to play a little mini game in each of the 3 outer rooms, which then allows you to start the damage process back in the middle room. So let's go over that first. In each of the side rooms and surrounding corridors, either a Scion lackey or a Centurion lackey named enemies will spawn around the place, and killing these lackeys will drop a pool of shadow energy like from the first encounter. And exactly like before, collecting the buff will progress your Gathering Shadow shadow meter. However, this time the meter has 2 stages. Once you reach halfway on the bar, you'll become a shadow novice, again giving you the shadow power grenade ability from before, but once both halves of the meter are full, you'll instead become a shadow apprentice, and both levels of the buff allow you to do different things. The first half, shadow novice, again is going to allow you to interrupt the explosion attack from Harrow, and by the way, this is pretty important to know, and I'll quickly explain how this happens. When you enter a side room, someone in your fire team will be given the Harrow's Decree debuff, and all that means is that Harrow is going to imminently spawn near you and try to detonate his shadow attack. So to stop him from doing that and potentially killing you, simply use your shadow power to interrupt the attack. Back to the buff though, Shadow Apprentice is going to allow you to interact with special wall panels in each of the side rooms, and in doing so, activate them. And the goal here is to activate 3 panels per room in quick succession with your Shadow Apprentice power. And you'll know if you've done this step correctly because doing so will play a sound cue, and the 3 lights above the doorway into the room will all be lit green. So just to recap, kill Scion and Centurion lackeys to accumulate shadow power, ideally all the way up to Apprentice, then activate the panels in each of the 3 side rooms. After all 3 rooms are done, you can now head back into the middle room, and you'll first notice 2 things. One is that Harrow is back and will imminently explode again, so either cancel it or just hide away somewhere. And 2, there are now 2 glowing fuses on both the left and right sides. Shooting the fuses will open a hole in the ground, and your goal now is to bait Harrow into falling into the hole in order to remove a portion of his shield. Also, this next part is very important and is key to removing even more of his shield when he falls down into the hole. Normally, letting him fall and jumping back up removes 1/3 of his shield. However, if as he's jumping back out, you stun him using your apprentice level shadow power, his shield will deplete to 50% instead, meaning you only need to repeat this process one more time with the other fuse, and after that it's straight into damage. I say this because at least during contest mode, teams would use both the fuses to get his shield down to 33% HP left. Then to remove the last third, activate a series of the same panels from the side rooms, which turns on a nearby generator. And quick note, activating the 3 nearest panels closest to any given generator will turn it on. And back to the contest strategy, once the generator was lit, baiting Harrow into attacking it removes the last part of his shield. However, since we can be more efficient now by using the shadow power to enter damage faster, we don't need to use the generator tech. However, if during damage you manage to bait Harrow into attacking a pre-prepared generator, it will in fact extend the damage phase by an additional 10 to 15 seconds, which is pretty cool to know if you're struggling on damage. In terms of what to use for damage, my team loves using Mint Retrograde and Parasite or Finality's Augur, and at least on normal mode with no feats, the 1 phase is very doable. I'm sure plenty of strategies work very well here. The only thing to note is that once you hit the final stand threshold, Harrow will attempt to escape by smashing through the door behind him, and all you need to do is chase him down, wait for the shield to deplete, and finish the job. After you've defeated Harrow and collected your loot, some more taken power will spawn in, and you'll need to activate the 2 panels on the left and right side. After that, a lever will reveal itself in the middle, and what comes next is just a classic piece of Destiny magic. Now make your way down into the larger ship known as the Malfast Contemptus and run all the way through until you reach this wide open hangar area. And first of all, jump across to the left hand side to the parked ships because this is where you'll find collectible number 2. Return to the initial area where all the ads were and make sure to kill them, then activate the central computer panel to engage the elevators. Then ascend with the elevators and continue on your path forward. After you drop down under this tank platform, follow my path and you'll end up next to collectible number 3. Again, be sure not to miss this. Also, as you progress into the next wide open area, hook a quick left and you'll find the second secret chest. After that, there is a small minigame you need to play, and that is to collect taken power from nearby lackeys all the way to apprentice level, because as you climb, there's going to be a taken panel that needs to be interacted with. Doing so will open a hatch that opens the final stretch of the path, including a few small bits of combat leading to the final encounter, Dredgen Sere. As soon as the encounter begins, Dredgen Sere will slam the ground with a lightning attack that deals a pretty hefty hefty chunk of damage, so be careful. The best way to avoid it, we found, was to just chill on the lower right area while he's doing the attack, then after that you're good to move on. The first thing you'll notice is that behind Dredgen Sere there is a giant stone obelisk, and on it are 5 taken balls. The goal here, in order to start the damage phase, is to break all 5 balls in both this room and the next room, which is going to be a taken dimension that mirrors the real one you are currently in. But more on this in just a moment. First of all, how do we break the orbs? Well, once the encounter has started, Incendior lackeys will begin spawning in on all sides of the map, and just like before, killing them will drop pools of taken power. However, this time round the power has a new 3rd level that wasn't present before. This time, the first third of the meter gives you Novice, the second gives you Apprentice, and the new 3rd max level meter gives you Shadow Master, which will come to be important later. At the same time as the lackeys are spawning, one at a time, the nameless apprentices from the first encounter make their return, and you will once again need to use at least Shadow Novice power to break their shield when their explosion attack is charging. And killing the nameless apprentice will break the shield on one of the taken balls, allowing you to break it. Doing so will extend the timer on Lure of the Dark. This timer is essentially a countdown that represents when Dredgen Sere will teleport you and your group into a taken mirror dimension of the boss arena. So your first goal when the encounter begins is to kill as many nameless apprentices as possible in order to break as many taken balls as possible, and if you are quick enough you can actually do all 5 before he teleports you into the taken realm. Also, before we move on, occasionally Dredgen Sere will cast an attack that mimics the Warlock's Stormtron Super, where he attaches a bolt of lightning to you that deals damage over time. And the only way to stop this from happening and killing you, because the damage of the attack drastically ramps up over time, is to shoot his hands while he's doing the attack, which will fully cancel it. Okay, so now you've successfully destroyed a few taken balls, and you've now entered the taken dimension. What do we do here? Once you're in here, your first objective is to kill the blistered shadow that appears right in front of you. And it's here that I want to explain how the damage phase / health bar of Dredgen Sere behaves, because it's pretty important. You'll notice that after you've killed the blistered shadow, the white part of Dredgen Sere's health bar becomes longer, and the white part itself is indicative of a threshold. And when it comes to damaging the boss, going past this threshold will stop the damage phase around 2 to 3 seconds after. Think of it like a caretaker or explicator kind of damage phase. So if your team is confident in their damage strategy, it's advisable to make the threshold portion as large as possible so that you have the most amount of damage time available before the phase naturally ends, and to avoid being locked out of damage. And I know that sounds a little confusing, but trust me here, this will make more sense once I explain the next part. So we know that killing the blistered shadow increases the length of your damage threshold. And actually there are 4 more blistered shadows scattered throughout the taken dimension. The first one is always right in front of you, there's also another one that always spawns up top, and the remaining 3 are randomly placed around the outer edges. So it will take a little bit of snooping around to find them, so if you want to be really aggressive and gamble on the one phase, killing every blistered shadow is the way to go. And by the way, each one you defeat will allow you to break the taken balls present on the obelisk inside the taken room. Another good tip is that you can also use these panels to create platforms in the taken dimension to make traversal a little easier. The last piece of important information regarding the taken dimension involves the Shadow Master taken power, aka when your meter is full, because what it lets you do is run up to the blistered shadows, and instead of killing them, you get an interact prompt to compel them instead, which stops them from being aggressive and gives you a stack of the Lure of the Dark timer. But this time, instead of increasing the length of the threshold, it doesn't affect it at all. However, it will still allow you to break an eye in the middle. This option is essentially here to balance the experience around harder difficulties, because no matter what, you need to either kill, compel, or create a mixture in order to break all 5 balls in the center. It's just that on contest mode, for example, you definitely don't want to kill all 5 shadows because the threshold comprises the entire health bar at that point. And I guess this is a good time to explain the downside to not hitting the damage threshold. If you fail to hit it, the entire normal room becomes completely electrified. And yes, you can turn it off by interacting with the panels scattered around the sides, but especially on contest mode, it makes the encounter far too hectic. For normal mode though, my recommendation would be to kill 3 or 4 shadows and compel either 1 or 2, or just kill all of them. Then your threshold is at a decent length that's manageable for your average group. So if you manage to break all 5 balls in the taken dimension in one teleport, then once you're sent back to the normal room, you won't be returning to the taken room, and all you need to do is finish breaking however many balls you had left. And right as the last one is broken, in any dimension, damage will begin. Damage-wise, my best recommendation is to have at least 1 Well of Radiance Warlock. Then for weapons, go with Mint Retrograde or Psi Eterna with Finality's Augur. And it should be an easy one phase, at least on normal mode. And if not, just repeat the entire process again until the Dredgen is down. Before we end off, I also want to highlight that just like the Desert Perpetual before it, Equilibrium does in fact support feats and appears to be the first dungeon that includes encounter challenges, which is pretty sweet in my opinion. The other feats include token limit, battalions, phase limit, and cutthroat combat, and any combination of the non-cutthroat feats increases the dungeon power delta by 20 power, much like traditional master dungeons, and cutthroat combat specifically is a -40 delta, so literally exactly the same as contest mode, meaning you can essentially relive the action if you want to. Finishing the dungeon quest will also allow you to focus specific gear pieces, including the heirloom exotic crossbow catalyst, so if you want to chase down a specific weapon or armor piece, then this is the way to go. So that has been your guide to the Equilibrium dungeon, minus all the fluff. I hope you found it helpful and enjoy your first run of the dungeon, and as for my opinion, I think it's pretty cool. I like a shorter, more classical dungeon from time to time, and the contest experience was also pretty good. Initial impressions put me at a solid 8 out of 10. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, sub, all the works, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now, dear viewer.